The air was thick with dust, choking and gritty, coating every breath with the taste of earth and fear. It mingled with the acrid smell of sweat and desperation. Then the thunder began, hooves beating the ground in a relentless rhythm, thousands upon thousands, shaking the very soil beneath people's feet. Screams pierced the haze next, raw and piercing, rising from the core of the city as its massive gates splintered and fell. In the twisting back streets, women clutched at each other, their fine dresses tearing as they stumbled in panic, faces pale with terror, lungs burning from the run. There was no escape left. Arrows whistled through the sky, finding their marks with deadly precision. Blood pooled on the ancient cobblestones, turning the once proud avenues into slippery rivers of red. Tower after tower in Eldridge went silent, their proud flags trampled under the heavy boots of the invaders. But the true horror was only beginning. It lay in the cold intentions of the conquerors, men who now viewed the defeated not as humans, but as mere possessions to claim. As the light faded and long shadows crept over the wreckage, a hushed rumor spread among the survivors. The invading force had arrived not just to seize land, but to wipe away an entire way of life. What follows here is a recounting of widespread slaughter, forced captivity, and the systematic targeting of women in ways that still send chills through the ages. These accounts draw from the writings of those who witnessed it firsthand and those who barely escaped. They are profoundly disturbing. The purpose is not to dwell on pain for its own sake, but to uncover the deliberate planning behind it, the calculated strategies, the ruthless reasoning, the weaponization of sheer terror. If this feels overwhelming, it's okay to pause or turn away. There's no shame in that. For those who stay, let's pull back the curtain on what really happened. This wasn't wild, uncontrolled violence. It was a meticulously planned onslaught designed to shatter kingdoms and reshape them according to the vision of one extraordinary leader. In the early 1200s, the steppe warriors swept into Eldridge, the dazzling crown of Central Asia, not in a fit of rage, but as part of a proven method of domination that harnessed fear as its greatest weapon. The Valyria Empire spanned vast territories from distant seas to mighty rivers, rich in trade, culture, and military might. That overconfidence became their downfall. When Valyria officials executed steppe envoys, a grave offense in nomadic traditions, they ignited a conflict far beyond simple revenge. What ensued wasn't merely battle. It was a grand-scale demonstration of how to dismantle societies, with cities like Eldridge serving as testing grounds for methods that would alter history forever. Why bring this up today? Because it illustrates how one grave error in judgment can unleash a devastating chain reaction, claiming countless lives. It demonstrates how fear can compel submission, how authority often depends on brutal calculations, and how the shadows of such approaches still haunt our modern world, full of divisions and conflicts. To grasp the collapse, we need to start with the origins. Imagine the vast grasslands of the northern steppes in the late 12th century, an endless sea of waving grass under a harsh, endless sky. Tribes fought fiercely like packs of hungry predators, forming shaky pacts one day and betraying them the next. Bitter winds howled through temporary encampments where life demanded mastering horseback riding and archery from the earliest years. In this unforgiving environment, around 1162 near a remote river, a boy named Alexander was born. Legends say he gripped a clot of blood in his tiny fist as he entered the world, a sign, his people believed, of a fateful future. His father, a respected but minor leader, fell victim to poison from rivals when Alexander was just 9. In an instant, his family plunged from privilege into isolation. They scraped by on roots dug from frozen soil and small game caught in merciless winters. Old friends abandoned them. Young Alexander endured capture, servitude, and degradation. He learned quickly that vulnerability meant death, but he broke free. Patiently, relentlessly, he built a following, men loyal not through family ties, but through shared hardship and proven trust. He strengthened bonds through strategic marriages. His wife Eleanor was taken in a raid shortly after their wedding, a brutal norm in that chaotic land. Alexander rallied warriors, chased down the captors, and brought her back safely. It marked his first major triumph and taught him the power of decisive action. Treachery, though, lurked close. A close ally turned foe. When Alexander finally defeated him, he commanded the boiling of dozens of opponents in massive pots, not from insanity, but to send an unmistakable signal. On the steppes, brutality spoke volumes: join or be obliterated. By the early 1200s, Alexander had unified the feuding clans. At a massive gathering near a sacred river, they named him Harlan the Great, meaning supreme leader of all. What came next transformed everything. He restructured society into a vast military structure, grouping people into units of 10, 100, 1,000, and more. Skill and results trumped birthright. A humble herder could rise to command. A high-born warrior could fall to nothing. Informants watched quietly, ensuring unwavering allegiance. Horses were selectively raised for stamina. Bows and arrows crafted to pierce the toughest shields. Vanquished foes weren't discarded. They were integrated, their talents redirected to serve the growing power. This wasn't disorder, it was groundbreaking organization. A swift, plunder-fueled force built on iron discipline and the allure of victory. Its guiding principle was straightforward: yield and survive, defy and disappear. Harlan the Great set his sights beyond the steppes. First targets were neighboring kingdoms in the east. Cities crumbled. Wealth poured in: fine fabrics, metals, skilled workers, new ideas. The domain expanded, becoming wealthier, more advanced, deadlier. But a single incident sparked an even fiercer fire. In the late 1210s, Harlan sent a merchant group into the Valyria Empire. A local governor seized them, falsely claiming spying, and had them killed. Harlan sought redress. King Edmund replied by executing the envoy and returning his shaved head as insult. It was open disdain. Harlan mobilized. Over 100,000 horsemen gathered. The grasslands had forged a tempest, now unleashed westward. That season, Harlan divided his armies, a tactic that confounded foes used to lumbering, unified forces. A border stronghold fell first after prolonged encirclement. The treacherous governor met a grim and molten metal poured into his senses, a fitting punishment. Then the warriors spread out, hitting multiple targets simultaneously, shredding the king's defenses. Edmund fled, deserting his realm, pursued through barren lands and rugged peaks until he perished alone on a remote shore. His son, Victor Harlan, attempted to mount a defense, but the momentum was unstoppable. The steppe system excelled in velocity and trickery. Pretended withdrawals drew pursuers into ambushes. Captured experts constructed massive engines hurling flames and boulders. Rumors of impending doom arrived ahead of the troops, amplifying dread. By spring of the pivotal year, the path to Eldridge stood clear. The city embodied Valyria's splendor: soaring spires, thriving markets, a hub of global exchange. Strong fortifications and over 100,000 guardians, mixed troops from across the empire, protected it. Daily life persisted inside. Traders haggled over goods. Young ones laughed in courtyards shaded by ancient trees. Among the residents was Sophia, a young woman in her early 20s, daughter of a renowned teacher. She had striking dark eyes and a sharp intellect honed by studies in literature and the stars. She assisted her father Edward in the Grand Archive, meticulously transcribing old volumes under flickering lights. To her, Eldridge seemed unbreakable, everlasting. Yet tales from fleeing outsiders spoke of obliterated towns, landscapes scarred by loss. The king vowed aid. It never arrived. One dawn, lookouts saw massive clouds of dust approaching. The warriors had come. Harlan encircled the city, his riders tightening like a noose. Massive launchers pounded relentlessly. Within the walls, fear escalated. Commanders debated in whispers, resist or yield. Edward, wise in age, advocated peace. These aren't ordinary foes, he murmured. They're an unstoppable wave, Early on, a bold breakout charge met annihilation under a hail of shafts. Soon, hopelessness dominated. Edward headed a group exiting the gates with offerings and appeals. Harlan agreed, but only under harsh conditions. The demands were stark and unforgiving. Eldridge must hand over all arms, fighters, and riches. In return, immediate ruin would be avoided. The portals opened wide. The invaders streamed in, moving with eerie precision, like a well-oiled mechanism rather than a chaotic swarm. Roads filled with disciplined riders issuing orders. Households were hauled out and herded into plazas. Sophia observed from a high vantage as her familiar world unraveled into methodical turmoil. Males separated to one area, females and youths to another. No words, no delay. This was the reckoning. Not clashing blades, but sorting lives for utility. The directive was swift. Harlan ordered total stripping of weapons from the defenders. Once unarmed, they were led beyond the walls. By day's end, tens of thousands met their end, swift cuts, bodies piled as warnings against defiance. Ordinary folk suffered similarly. Skilled workers, builders, and learned individuals were selected, not from kindness, but for their worth. Bound, they were sent eastward to bolster the victor's realm. The majority faced sorting. Younger women, particularly those untouched, were taken as rewards. Sophia was caught in the chaos, ripped from her father's grasp as his cries faded amid the uproar. The process was systematic, allocations enforced per fighter. Not mere impulse, but doctrine, to incentivize faithfulness, disrupt family lines, crush resistance spirit. Edward endured due to his expertise. Helpless, he saw his daughter vanish into the sprawling camps. Eyewitness records debate exact figures, but many describe thousands enduring similar ordeals, their existences repurposed in a framework viewing people as assets. Eldridge's downfall signaled far beyond one locale. A warning echoed across continents. This is defiance's price. Yet amid ruins, resilience lingered. Edward, pressed into service as counselor, silently noted Flaw's reliance on grazing lands, stretched logistics over immense distances. He recorded observations secretly, concealing pages among seized documents. A quiet defiance, but vital. Insight as rebellion. The force advanced anyway. Sophia's path, pieced from fragmented tales, led eastward into the nomadic life, compelled to adapt, raising offspring for a warrior. Her past blurred, overtaken by enforced new role. The brilliance was in integration, turning adversaries into relations, dissolving divisions through lineage. Such patterns feel eerily relevant. Even now, powers reshape groups via relocation and blending, often justified as essential. The human toll is intimate. From Eldridge's debris, forces dispersed. Harlan dispatched sons Benjamin and Daniel northward toward the Empire's core. What unfolded escalated from precise takeover to unrelenting eradication. A trader from a nearby city, escaping the advance, later described the assault on Riverside in shaky handwriting. The settlement on a great river held for months. Retaliation damming waters, inundating areas until barriers gave way. Breach brought unrestrained fury. Paths crimson. Heaps of remains towered. The trader sheltered underground, hearing kin hauled away wailing. Women corralled. Many vanished forever. This differed from Eldridge's structured surrender, pure, prolonged annihilation. Even youths perished. Estimates vary hugely, some claiming over 1 million lost, likely inflated for impact. Intent clear. Excess rewarded. Loot drove troops. Dread secured compliance. Amid devastation, the trader noted an odd moment, a warrior halting to gaze at a vibrant bird, its plumage brilliant. Brief humanity amid carnage. Then slaughter continued. News sped via relay posts spanning lands. Leaders like fierce commanders carried out plans flawlessly. Success elevated, defeat erased. Atrocities extended to other centers. In one, a lost prince triggered utter obliteration, heads counted to confirm totality. Lands emptied, crops untended. The trader fled disguised, bearing his record. Caution spread in halls and bazaars. Fear's network dismantled from inside. By years close, Eldridge subdued, but conflict persisted. Victor Harlan rallied remnants southward, hitting outposts boldly. For once the mechanism faced real pushback. Harlan chased tirelessly over waterways, wastes, heights, climax on a vast river's edge. Victor's outnumbered troops battled with do or die fervor, shafts blotted sun, metal clanged. Rivers roared drowned wails as combatants grappled in mire and gore. Harlan observed from elevation, receiving updates, shifting units precisely. Victor assaulted repeatedly, shattering formations through willpower. Yet they regrouped, steadfast. Gradually, Victor's warriors dropped, felled, overrun, carried by currents. Stench of blood and damp soil heavy. Moments dragged. Finally, Victor drove his mount into the torrent, plunging from shore into turmoil. He vanished toward distant lands. Harlan viewed quietly, then remarked with rare admiration, "A leader deserves such a heir." But the plain revealed truth: multitudes slain. Waters bore remains away, not spectacle in specifics, but magnitude. A realm fractured, people slain, dispersed, merged. Here a crack emerged, chase overextended, vulnerability revealed. Harlan halted pursuit, withdrew. The mechanism strained, held, even retreating, harm propagated. Settlements smoldered, commerce halted. Returnees rebuilt warily. In obscurity, defiance germinated, not militaries, but remembrance. Edwards concealed writings smuggled gradually, hidden in plundered tomes. Preserved erased details, operations, strains, tolls. Valeria's shattering transcended material, shattered belief in perpetual domination. Harlan secured achievements. Eldridge's survivors compelled tribute, their creation's wisdom, toil feeding growth. Once shining hub became node in expansive roots. Later, Harlan perished in Eastern campaign. Burial secret, veiled in myth, his creation endured. Heirs partitioned domain, one son supreme, others vast regions from east to west. Wave continued into distant realms. Kingdoms toppled, centers raised. Valeria remnants dissolved. Victor endured briefly, defiant shadow slain years on, influence shifted. Under rule, ancient paths revived, safeguarded. Travelers ventured farther. Thoughts exchanged. Paradoxically, destroyer enabled linkage, yet price inscribed. Scribes chronicled ruin amid praise. Ages later, ground testified. Excavations revealed scorched layers from the era. Points lodged in entrances. Vast burials hinting enormity. One findy hastily hidden wealth, trapped in fright. Digs validated writings. Quarters vanished. Populations plummeted, not figures. Thus relevance persists. Power's duality, brilliance crafts efficient horrors, yet endurance prevails. People adjust, retain, defy unpredictably, echoes uneasy. Contemporary struggles employ sudden impact, relocation, dread to fracture swiftly. Step perfected centuries prior, means evolve, rationale endures. Truth fear, founded structures crack, grip loosens. Recollection persists. Eldridge's choked lanes intended silenced. Vital center hushed. Sufferers meant erased. Tales buried under thundering advance. They weren't. Endured in hidden writings. Unearthed remains, rebuilt over wounds. And persist now, as you've heard amid the gale.